Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to this unboxing and review of the Kingtech G4 160 engine. Just a quick reminder guys, if this is your first time coming across my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. All things turbine aircraft and RC basically is stuff that I deal with. And don't forget to smash that like button, give the video a thumbs up down below. If you don't like the video, feel free to give the video a thumbs down, but make sure you hit that thumbs down button 2 times. Alright guys, let's hop into this and I'll show you the details of this engine as it comes from the manufacturer, from Kingtech. And we'll do some weighing of the engine and we will do a install, test run, things like that. And just an overall review of the engine is the plan. So let's dive into this. All right, guys. So this engine is as it comes from Kingtech. The owner of the engine has opened it up. What we're actually going to be installing this engine in is an Excalibur XL. Getting rid of the old JetCat 160 that's in there and putting in the Kingtech 160. So let's open this thing up. All right, so as per the normal Kingtech setup, this is the box that the engines come set up in. We've got fuel pump. Now this is the KP500 fuel pump. It says plus on it. I'm not really sure what that means. We've got the standard setup of fittings and tubing and all that kind of stuff. That's all normal. We've got the standard Kingtech data terminal. It's not the ECU anymore. I can't remember what it's called, the acronym right now, but anyways, we've got the ECU slash whatever it's called now, the information relay or something like that. And then we've got the engine nicely wrapped in this plastic bag. And anyways, let's toss this aside. Alright guys, so we'll open up all the items here. We'll start off with, save the engine till after, but we'll just go over the standard items. So the G4 engine, you've got different connectors now than the old setup. So we'll talk a little bit more about those. I also did a G4 210 engine run up and unboxing and stuff. I'll put the link up above here if you're interested in seeing that. It'll also be in the description of the video. So I'll set this aside for now and we'll review that in a minute. Now we've got the standard data terminal. Okay, this is unchanged from previous Kingtech engines. The fuel pump. Again, unchanged from previous versions. It's got the solenoid for the startup feature where it primes itself. If you're a Kingtech user, you're familiar with that, but standard fuel pump. And then we've got all the goodies. So, fuel filter. One thing that's changed on the fuel filter is, hopefully you can see this, I'll pull it out, maybe that'll make it easier for you to see. You can see on the little piece of paper there, it's got a flow arrow on the paper. Okay, so let me take this apart. If you do have one of the old Kingtech fuel filters that doesn't have this marked on it, just think of the filter like a bucket, okay? And your fuel flow needs to flow from the outside of the bucket to the inside of the bucket and through. That's the way I always remembered it. But with the new fuel filter, it's got the arrow on there. There's an O-ring as well too. You don't need to go crazy tight with it. We've got a couple different fittings in case you want to, instead of making it the L-bend fitting coming off the engine, you can make it a straight fitting. I've never changed mine, but it's nice that they come with those options. We've got the standard 4mm Festo except it's not a Festo, it's a Pisco valve, but that's the standard on-off valve that the engines come with. We've got a section of 6mm and 4mm tubing. And then we've got the cables. Let me unbox or unwrap these and we'll go over this, how it relays to the unit here. Okay, so we've got our standard servo cable. That's for the throttle channel from your receiver. Okay, we've got this cable, which is going to be the cable that goes between the I'm just going to call this the ECU, guys. Again, somebody correct me, but I can't remember what that's called. Anyways, so this cable goes between the ECU and the turbine. We've got the fuel pump connector. Okay, so the back of the fuel pump is still the MPX connector, and this goes in right there. And then this is our battery cable. Okay, so the nice thing with the new ECU is all of the inputs are specific. So on the old one, it was MPX connectors. One was a female, one was a male. So it was pretty stinking impossible to mix those up. But it is nice to have all those specific inputs now on the ECU. There's also a mini computer connector there. I can't remember what they're called, but I'm assuming that's going to be for future upgrades, software upgrades, things like that. Anyways, that's what that unit looks like. So now let's unpackage the turbine itself and take a look at this thing. Alright guys, there is the G4 turbine. Now on the outside everything looks basically similar, okay? A couple of the changes, obviously we've gone to the small yellow connector on the turbine, so now it's a bus system. So there's no telephone cable and an MPX connector. This is the only connector going between the turbine and the ECU. So that's one change. The second big change that they've made that I know of is the brushless starter motor. Now this is a lot smaller, it's also aluminum, and with that comes the integrated FOD screen as well. So the FOD screen is now part of the front cover here, which is great. I think that's a wonderful change on the engine. Almost looks like the old Wrens, basically, is what that strikes me as. So otherwise, on the outside, everything looks exactly the same. I've got a G2 160 in my Ultra Flash, and it runs great. One thing that I've noticed with the G4s is the throttle response, at least on our 210s that I did the review on, where it's almost instantaneous that you get some reaction from the turbine. So when you're at idle, give it a little blip of throttle, and it's like instant. You get something out of the turbine, which is pretty neat. So, anyways, guys, that is the turbine unboxing. All right, guys. Next thing I'll do is I'll weigh the components for you. We'll do a total weight so you can see everything. Once that's done, we'll put it on the test stand and we'll get a run-up done on it, but let's weigh this thing next. All right, guys, so we'll weigh just the turbine itself. So the turbine itself is 1,571 grams. So when we divide that by 454, so the turbine itself weighs 3.46 pounds for the turbine itself. So we'll leave the data terminal off. But all the components is 234 grams by itself. We'll toss the turbine on there. So with that, we've got 1803 divided by 454. So we've got 3.97 pounds for the entire package, assuming you use all the fuel tubing and everything. But that gives you the weight of all the components with the in the package to run the turbine. All right, guys, so next thing I'm going to do is get the turbine installed on my test stand, and we will do a run-up and some runs with this thing. All right, guys, so everything's powered on. We are ready to learn the radio to the turbine. So we're going to push the little wheel button, go into radio, hit the next button, go to enter. Okay, so we need to go stick up, trim up. Once you're there, you hit save, stick down, trim down, save, stick down, trim up, save. Okay, so thrust curve, half expo, we'll keep it there. And we are now learned to the radio. So let's just go into info for a second. So we've got absolutely 0 on everything, so no runs, no time on the turbine. We've got the test information, so when they ran it at the factory. So one thing with the Kingtech turbines is they generally come set up to run diesel. Most of the guys I fly with, there's a few that run diesel, but most of us fly Kero or Jet A. So we'll see how it starts on the first startup. If it is a little bit hot, that would be the reason why. So I'm just going to go through the test of everything. So glow plug, when you turn this one on, you should be able to hear it, which you can. There's a little bit of a buzz coming from the turbine. Test pump, we have no fuel in there yet. Test gas valve, you can hear the click, which we heard. Test fuel valve, same thing. There's a click. There we go. So I'm going to put fuel in this and we will get the pump primed. All right, guys, so now we have fuel in the tank. We're going to prime the fuel system. And there we go. We got fuel at the pump, or fuel through the pump in the system. Now there's going to be some air bubbles stuck in the fuel filter, so on the initial startup that might be something that we have to be aware of. And then we'll also go into the restart menu and we'll just turn this to on. All right, guys, so we are ready to get this thing fired up and see how she runs. I'm going to get it positioned in front of the garage door, and that'll be the next step, is us starting this thing. All right, guys, so we are ready to start this thing up. A couple things that I'm going to do as I go through the run through. I'm just going to start it, see how it starts, and then I'm just going to do some playing with the throttle. I'll probably put my I'll have my radio right here when I do that, so you guys will be able to see the 3 different items all put together. So I'll be controlling the throttle here. Obviously the sound is going to be very loud, but just pay attention to when we get to idle and everything's calibrated at idle and everything. I just want to see how this thing runs. You know, on the 210 that I did the test on, if it's at idle and we just go like this, like the turbine reacted instantly. So just something to keep think about as I go through this test run, and enjoy. So there's going to be quite a few bubbles that are going to come through the filter. Out of fuel. Okay, so one thing on the G4s is the cool down sequence. The starter motor runs continually, right? So that's something that's changed from the previous versions. Is, you know, you used to have the cycling on and off and on and off to 5,000 RPM, and then it would click off. Now it just stays running continually until it gets to about 100 degrees. Okay, guys, I'm gonna add some more fuel in there, and we'll do another run up with this. All right, guys, test run number 2. Now that last test run, I just did the restart as we were running out of fuel, so I'm going to, I'll do another restart when we're about halfway through our tank, but we are ready to go with the run up. Now it's going to be a pretty hard start because we do have a lot of bubbles in there. You can see from our running out of fuel. All right, so now what we'll do is we'll test that function, because previously I turned my radio off, which is the wrong thing to do. So if we unplug the power from the receiver, so now you can see the receiver has no power. The data relay module, that's what it is. That stays, this all stays running until that gets down to around 100 degrees, and then you'll see it shut off. There you go. All right, guys, so just some final closing thoughts on the Kingtech G4 160 engine. Like most engines in the Kingtech lineup, run absolutely great. Very, very little issues upon startup, things like that. As you saw in the running video, it ran exceptionally well. The auto restart works just as you'd expect it to work. Takes about 12 to 15 seconds to return to that idle or that RPM setting that you had it set at before, I find. So I do love the changes they've made on the G4 engines with the bus system, the brushless starter motor. The bus system for me is a really nice feature. I like that you're just one cable into the turbine. Works really, really well. The data relay module, same as it was before. I think there's some plans in the works for a Bluetooth connection to your phone, so I guess we'll keep an eye out for that. But one of the big things I found with this engine, just like the 210 I tested, link down below, was when you're at idle and you blip that throttle, it's almost instantaneous to get a response out of the engine. The older generations of Kingtech, they were quick, but when you're at idle, you blip that throttle. Takes just a little bit longer than this engine, I found. Also, the plane that this engine's going in is an Excalibur XL, which is right behind you guys on the camera. That has an old King JetCat engine in it. It's a 160. It is Kerosene start, but I'm not sure the model or anything like that. But that engine, when you're at idle and you throttle that thing up, it's an old engine. Like you're waiting about 3 to 4 seconds before you get any response, and then it's another 3 to 4 seconds before you're actually getting into any sort of power. So it's going to be a great engine swap for that aircraft. We're going from a 160 to a 160, but a newer 160. I have a sneaking suspicion this probably will be lighter than that JetCat that's on there, but we'll see. I'll do a video series on the install of that Excalibur as well too. So that's basically the closing remarks on this engine, guys. Very, very impressed with this engine. Would love to put one of these in my Flash. I've got a G2 160 in my Ultra Flash, and this would be a cool upgrade for that plane. Maybe in the future sometime. So if you guys have any questions or comments, list them down below. I'll do my best to answer them. If this is your first time finding my channel, guys, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any of my my new videos, any of my content I release. When you do hit that subscribe button, don't forget to hit the bell so you get notified when I release new videos. If you guys liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give it a thumbs down, but make sure you give it 2 thumbs downs. Works out better that way. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll see you in the next video.